This is Redtown. Redtown will not be found on any map, and yet it is a real place. It is a secret town that exists within Portland and West Hove on the south coast of England. When locals say Redtown, they mean the older parts of the area, characterised by the red brick buildings. So, a new supermarket is not part of Redtown, while the terraces on either side of it are. Redtown is what is known as a reluctant suburb, absorbed by the urban sprawl that stretches all along the coast, erased by road widening and replaced by box estates like luxury shanty towns. It is Jack Bishop's 21st birthday. He feels like a character in a reflective, autobiographical novel of the mid-60s. Sometimes it's quite a laugh that we can never laugh at anything, ever again, he thinks. 21 years in Redtown, has it done my brain in? Another man might have said. Does the environment determine the nature of the individual, or can it be transcended? Every time he travels through it, he is travelling through the sites of all the events of his life, layers of memory recorded in the streets and buildings. A turn of a corner can open up whole vistas of memory, pleasant, unpleasant, or the sort that make the stomach cringe. It may not look much to anyone else, but where Wordsworth had lakes and mountains, Jack has this. When he was very young, he had wondered why only highlights of his life were recorded by his memory, though they didn't always seem like highlights at the time. Added together by a drowning man, these moments of intense experience would only make about 10 minutes. In a small brown room, he had clenched his tiny fists and exerted all his willpower, thinking, this is going to be one of those moments that I'll always remember. And it had worked that time anyway. This particular stretch of road reminds him of the time he was out with his dad and noticed for the first time that his breath was on fire in cold weather. The park was covered with new laid snow, and Jack was sad that it would soon be trampled on, thrown around and made into things, yet at the same time, that was what he wanted to do himself. His mother had given him a box with snakes and ladders written on the lid, and it took all the courage he had to open the box for the first time. His curiosity about snakes must have equalled his fear of them. He knew he was meant to be looking forward to something, but he didn't know what it was. This was the days of black and white television, so he'd never seen anything more spectacular than a match or an open fire, and they took him out into the back garden, and he was knocked sideways by the stars and sparks showering down. Never having seen anything like them before, he assumed they were bits of plastic or some sort of solid object, and next day he was sad not to be able to find them. As he was also sad when he was told that eventually he was going to die. He remembers his first orgasm. It had turned reality inside out, like Alice Through the Looking Glass or the bit in The Wizard of Oz where the colour starts. Years of experience came off badly compared to those few seconds. He had a crush on a shy, quiet girl and walked the whole length of Redtown just to go past this outside of her house. On the way he made a handprint in some frosty grass, half for the benefit of an imaginary audience. The first time he had real sex was in a windswept Redtown park. He felt total power over his own destiny and at the same time a sort of weakness, like some inner flesh being exposed to the air. Years later, having his tattoo done was a similar experience. This is where Jack was walking along in a storm once and a metal flagpole fell a few yards in front of him, and he thought, God, if I'd been walking a bit faster I would have been edited out completely. He made a fine art of telling tall stories. Like once he told his friend there was a revolving village in Scotland called Galashiels, and his China, as Jack would call him, believed him for a while, and eventually they went there, stayed 3 hours and came back south again. He remembered all the comics and pulp adventure stories he had read, like a parallel existence in print. His boyhood hero had been a mysterious detective called the Bishop, who had a disguise or trademark of a clown's red nose. He had glimpsed his own name on a mouldering magazine and been drawn into the world of this character. The Bishop stories were written